Welcome to video number 2 in Let's Sort Out Your Suspension. In the last video, and we'll stick a link for it up here somewhere, we played around with the stock spring and the stock settings and dual sport mode where it's just you and maybe a little bit of gear, and in full-on adventure mode where you had 50 pounds of luggage hanging off the back, and tried to find the best suspension settings for that heavy setup. I think we found that you can make the stock suspension work if you're willing to put in the time to do all the adjustments to it, and you're not going to ride the bike without that extra load on the back. Those settings just don't work for a single person. This time we're going to install a Racetech spring. This is a 6.0 kilograms per Newton meter spring. Their website recommended, with the full loadout on the back of this bike, that this be a 6.8 kilogram per Newton meter spring. This spring is right between stock and what Racetech's website calls for. And to kind of address that, what we're going to do is what we did last time. We're going to install the spring. We're going to set it up for just a rider and his gear. I weigh about 180 pounds, give or take, plus 10 or 15 pounds of gear. Hell, my boots are 5 pounds apiece. There's 10 pounds right there. And we're going to see if we can set this spring up for, again, dual sport mode, just me and maybe a little bit of gear, and see if we can make it ride all right. Set the sag, go through all the suspension settings, and make it ride right. And then we're going to add 50 pounds of gear in the back, and we're going to see if we can't, without messing with the preload too much, if we can't get this bike set up for an adventure load and still have it ride well. Again, if you watch the other video, we found that you really could with the stock spring, but you really had to throw some of your adjustments out of whack, and you had to use up all your preload. Okay, I'm hoping with this, ideally, I don't have to touch the preload at all because it's a pain in the ass. What I'd like to be able to do is load it up adventure-wise, right? Go for a ride, pull into camp, decide, hey, you know what? I think I want to go do the Alpine Loop again, but this time I'm going to leave all my gear at camp. And all I have to do to the bike is maybe adjust a couple clickers, and off I go, and it'll run perfectly, as opposed to having to get in there and reset your preload every time. That's just a pain in the butt. So that's the idea behind the video. Will it work or not? I have no idea. That's why I said this is an experiment. But, all right, enough talking. I'm going to shut up now, and we're going to start tearing parts off the bike and get this spring installed, okay? All right, step 1, take the seat off. Hi, Mo. Hi, Mo. All right, step 2, we're going to take the number plate and the airbox covers off. All right, now we're going to take off the radiator shrouds. Next, we're going to take off your ECU cradle. You see there's 2 bolts here. It's the front one. And once you have those 2 bolts out, to get this whole thing loose, you're going to pop that little hook there. There we go. There we go, so that's all loose. Next we're going to loosen up your tank bolts now, because I have an IMS tank. I've got I've got one over here and one up front, and then it pretty much sits in the cradle. If you have a stock tank, you're going to have one here, and a bolt up here. If you've got a stock tank, you can leave it on and kind of pick it up and move it. The IMS, because it comes back further and it's got this wing, it's going to get in the way of everything. So if you have a 3-gallon tank, you're going to have to take it off. And because you have to do that to check your valves and do anything else maintenance-wise, you really should be pretty good at it. It's not that hard. There's a couple tricks to it. Number one is you're going to come at it from this side. You're going to get, if you can, we're going to get the ECU and all these wires kind of out of the way and give yourself some room. So you're going to move the ECU up and your bank angle sensor out of the way, and then pick it up. Oh, don't let it get hung up on your turn signal. Just kind of get it pried up like that, right? Now I can get at it. I can unplug the electrical plug for the fuel pump. And don't forget to take that off. There's that little metal tab it hangs onto. Make sure you take that off as well. Okay, so you're going to pull this off, right? It's your fuel pump connector, and then it's got a little extra tab here. Can you see it? Usually takes a pair of needle nose to reach in there. Okay, once that's free, then here's your fuel line. I know this is really hard to see, I apologize. You're just going to squeeze and pull off this little keeper. This little piece of plastic just goes up and it keeps the green tab from falling down. Now yours probably has a little piece of rubber covering this. I pulled mine off because I got tired of it. You pull this little green tab down, can you see it? You can get in there with a screwdriver. Pull your fuel line front. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right, and now the tank's free to come off. Now we are going to loosen up both the muffler mounts. Or I say loosen them up, we're just going to take them off. Now that we got the tank off, we can loosen this up. You're just going to drop your what I like to call the tip over sensor. I guess it's a bank ankle sensor. Kind of flop that over there out of the way. Then we're going to get to this air boot. Okay, air boot right there. And we're going to loosen it up. So there's two clamps on that, the front and the back. There we go, nice and loose. All right, and now back to your subframe mounts. We're going to loosen the top one. Whoa. All right, loosen the top one, and then we're going to take these lower subframe mounts mounting bolts out. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to lift the subframe up, but two things. I want you to watch the wires in here. Most of them have enough room that they wiggle a little bit, but not a lot. And this boot, right, that we loosened up both ends, needs to pop off the bottom side of the air box. It needs to come off down underneath. So we're going to lift this up, but we're going to be easy about it. Make sure we're not binding up on anything. Right here I can see I have a zip tie that's going to need to be cut. And then I'm going to take the zip ties and I'm going to set them in a spot so I know how many zip ties I've cut. Ooh. Oh, fuck me. Next, we're going to take the 17mm nuts holding the shock on. There's one up here, and there's one at the bottom. This one at the top. And one at the bottom. Okay, now before I pull the shock out, I'm going to wind the preload all the way back while I still have it contained in the bike. Right? Get to this point. There we go, nice. Okay, now we're going to pull or push these bolts. Find the bolt. Gonna push it out. And then wiggle the tire up and down a little bit, and it comes right out. Same thing with the bottom. That one you should be able to just push right out. I need to bring the airbox up just to scotch more. There we go. All right. And there it is. The next bit of trouble is there's a locking ring down here. You might be able to just see the edge of it on the video. So what you're going to have to do is work this collar down gently, get the dirt out of there is what I'm having trouble with until you can see the hole. There we go, there it just popped. Nice. Okay, can you see it now? Right. This locking ring holds this collar on. Oh, yeah, you can put that down for a second. There we go. So this locking ring slides off. That comes off. And then this collar comes off allegedly. Collar comes off. And then your spring comes out. And it's just that easy. New spring, we're going to put this on, and what we're going to check for to make sure that the spring sits all the way at the base. Now if I put this Race Tech spring on upside down, all right, it doesn't go to the bottom. So just be aware of that. All right, it may have an up or down, it may have one end of the coil bigger than the other. All right, so now it's on. Now there's your groove you're aiming for. You'll put this collar in, and then in theory, as long as we have everything lined up and the gods are happy with us, we should be able to pop that ring on. It's probably not going to go on as easy as we're really hoping it to, because ain't nothing easy. But well, let's find out. Okay, so I got everything lined up, mostly. Now, if you had a second person here, it'd make life infinitely easier, right? Because I still have to push it down a little bit. to expose the ring right there, right? Second person would have made that way easier, and I'd have somebody to drink a beer with. But in these times of coronavirus, everybody's just chilling on their own. The other thing I can do is put an NRS strap on the spring, right? And hold the spring down a little bit. I think I might do that only because I just need it to move a little bit. So real quick, I just need to take a little bit of spring out of this. Okay, there's the there we go. And then once it's in, it'll be all seated down in there. You won't even be able to see it. Pop that off. All right, and there it is. One of the things I wasn't able to show very well on any of the other videos was the rebound damping way down here in the bottom, because it hides behind one of the links, but there it is. Okay, let's put this puppy back in and get her torqued down and go get a cup of coffee. Basically everything goes back in and back together the way it came out. There's a couple things to make note of. The first thing is that you're going to torque the, oh my goodness, you're going to torque your bolts down for the shock to 38 foot-pounds. That's the first thing. Next, we're going to put the lower bolt on. This one is the upper one. It's longer. One is longer than the other. In case you missed that part, we're going to put the lower one on first. There we go. And the reason we do that is because to get the upper one on, you've got to lift the rear tire up. It's just easier to do from here. That's all. There we go. And again, these nuts get torqued to 38 foot-pounds. Now again, before we go ahead and put all this together, I'm going to run the preload down to about where it was set. There's about ½ an inch of thread showing. So I'm going to run it down, at least get it close. It's just easier. You can get at the collar super easy now, as opposed to when this is all closed up. And there's actually no weight hanging on the spring at the moment. So it'll just go on way, 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 way easier. So I'll be sitting here tapping this for the next 10 minutes, okay? Next, we're going to lower the subframe back down. But I want you to take super, super special note of the boot, right? Where that has to go back together perfectly. You can put some schmutz on there, you can silicone or whatever you want to put on to make sure it goes on. But again, the most important thing you can do is get that boot on there correctly. Hopefully it'll just go right on. I don't know. Let's see if I can get the camera set up to see it. Well, I didn't expect it to just slam shut like that, but yeah. So looking at it, there you go. Right? It just went right back on. Awesome. So that's kind of the last of the tricks that you've got to worry about. Right? You're just going to put everything back together, put the tank on and all your body work, and put the seat back on, etc., etc. When you put your exhaust back on, just kind of just ease it on, right? Don't just put the bolts in and bolt it in tight. Sometimes it gets a little twisted from here, and it's got 3 different connection points. So when you put the exhaust on, just keep wiggling it, make sure the bolts line up nice. If they don't force anything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, you don't need to see other than those 2 things on the spring and the air boot. You don't really need to see anything. Everything else is just do it in reverse order. All right. All right, so I'm going to finish that up, and then through the magic of editing, we'll have the bike all together, and there you go, all together. All right, that wasn't so bad, was it? If you watched the first video in this series, you saw how we set the sag for the bike. I'm going to do that really quick in this video as well, just because it's part of the process. So the way the bike is set up right now, I have no idea where the spring is. We just put it on. The compression and rebound for everything is still set at the way it was from the last video. It's set for that adventure ride with 50 pounds of weight in the back. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reset the sag and set everything back to 0. I'm sorry, set everything back to stock settings, not 0. And then we'll go for a couple rides. And again, we're going to do this with just me on the bike and with 50 pounds of weight to represent my luggage on the bike. And we're going to see if there's a huge difference with this 6.0 kilogram per Newton meter Race Tech spring as opposed to the stock spring. I suspect it'll be a huge difference, but all right, let's find out. So first things first, we're going to measure our bike with the suspension all the way down with no sag. So we're going to 0 it, okay? There we go, sag's at 0, right on the edge, or pretty damn close to the edge. Here's where it's sitting with no weight on it. Here, let me get it up. There we go, bounce a little bit. So the last time, well, this sticks in there, 38, 42, so around 40. So right now it is sitting just where the stock spring sat when it was set up for dual sport mode. Just like last time, we're going to check race sag. I have my clothes on, I've got boots on, but I'm going to add this 10-pound weight to simulate my suit, and my boots are much heavier if I wear my motocross boots and my helmet, which I got the new Fly Fly, the new one, the carbon one. That thing is amazing. Okay, I know this isn't about helmets, this is about suspension. I'm just saying. So what I'm going to do is when we check the race sag, I'm just going to throw this up on the seat. And again, if you didn't watch the other video, just a quick reminder, my bike weighs 315 pounds full of gas, so it's already 25 pounds-ish over what a stock bike is. Let's see what kind of measurements we come up with on this new spring. If it's 40, I got a suspicion it's gonna be much less. Sag, it's gonna be like at 80. I think it says 85 or 90. You actually can see better than I can. We're at 90. I'm going to aim for 100. We're too stiff. We want to back it off. This is actually easier with it up on a stand and less pressure. There's a yellow mark on my side. We turn that out 2 turns. We're going to try to drop the race sag down to 100 millimeters or so. Let me get this all set up here. All right, so here's static sag. We're at 50. Interesting. Did not see that coming. So we're at 90 something. If I sit down without sitting on the thingy, so at about 90. Oh, that's a really stiff spring. All right, I'm going to knock a couple more, another turn. Okay, so that was another turn out, or softer, and we went from 50 to 54-ish, maybe 56. Damn. Our race sag is right around 100. There we go. All right, front fork compression is 7 out. Front fork rebound dampening is 12 out. High speed compression stock is 3 1/4 out. We'll go all the way in. We'll call that 1, 2, 3 1/4. Low speed compression is 11 out. Rebound is 7 out. All right, well, so far it feels all right. Oh, it's a little stiff. All right, maybe it doesn't feel all right. Oh, that's a little bouncy. That's not bad. Wow. I still had a couple things a little. Oh, that was a little bouncy. All right, hang on. Even with the stock spring, I had everything cranked a little tighter. I just went over that jump back there and I'm going to turn the low speed N1. I don't know if I actually care about the low speed as much as the high speed. And then this clicker is going to go in too. All right, let's see how it works now. Yeah, that's all it took. Holy shit. Whoop, that was a little... That's all right. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I mean, I'd have to actually get it out and ride it some more to tell you if it was that much better or worse. I can tell you the spring's definitely not hurting anything. I'm a little light right now. I didn't put on any of my gear other than my helmet. Right? Wish I would have put my boots on. I can tell you that. That was nice. I think for now it's a good starting point. Just kind of tighten everything up. Right? Time to load this thing up with some luggage. So our static sag last time, I think, was 54. Kind of wondering what it's going to be like now, but it's a stiffer spring, so it might not be as bad as we think it's going to be, right? Okay, give it a little bounce. 70, yeah. Oh, there it came up to 70. So up from the bottom is 86, down from the top is 68, so somewhere in the middle should be about 70. Now we're going to throw our simulated gear on the bike, grab my little rope to the tree so I don't tip over. Didn't knock anything loose today. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, pretty good and balanced. And our sag is now at 110. Wow. That's amazing. According to Honda, you want to set your race sag between 95 for a stiffer ride and 110 for a more plush ride. You know, the average is 100 millimeters. The fact that just with that one spring change, we're at the plush ride without doing anything else is kind of amazing. I am really, really impressed. What I'm going to do is we're going to go for another ride. I'm not going to change any of the suspension settings, and we'll see how she does with the extra weight. I am going to take the tools, and I have a suspicion I might have to mess with the high-speed compression in the shock. But I'm hoping that's it. Usually, honestly, the front end of this bike, unless you really, really overload it, seems to handle the extra weight just fine. Obviously, all the extras way, way out in the back. The only extra weight I have up here is an extra gallon of gas and, you know, some little bits and pieces here, so it's not a whole lot. The back is the one that does all the work, right, when it's hanging on luggage. And of course, I usually have my tank bag, but that's not very heavy either. So I'm hoping all I need to do is maybe add a little click or two of compression, maybe I don't know, maybe a quarter turn of high-speed damping. And I'm hoping this thing just crushes it with that extra weight. I got a feeling it's gonna. All right, let's go for a ride. Enough talking, John. Let's go for a ride and see what happens. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that having the weight where it is, as opposed to where I normally put it, is making it a little tough to ride for sure. Again, don't ever put that much weight that high on your bike. Oh, that's a little bouncy. Camera still there? I need to set my mirror up so I can look back. Oh yeah, it's still there. All right. All right. I wasn't sure if I was going to lose it. All right. We might lose it here. Alright, maybe a little faster. See if we can bottom it out. No? Wow. So, it's a little harder to steer for sure. Oh, that got a little off track. Oh, I lost it. Go back around and find it. Wait, hold up. Yeah, it's gone. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Well, we tried. Kind of a bad idea and we knew it, right? Let's wrap this up, and if you stuck with me through both part 1 and part 2, thank you. You've got a lot of patience. I will put my final settings Wait, I take that back. They're not my final settings. I will put the settings that I think are going to work to start from up on this big white screen. And you guys can do with those what you will. They are not final by any means. Conclusion. For an adventure bike that's going to carry more weight than just the rider, I am super happy with this spring. I am super happy with the heavier spring. Does it have to be this particular spring? Does it have to be a race deck? Does it have to be 6.0? I don't think it does. I'm kind of happy that I don't have to play with the preload very much with this, right? Because I was sitting at 95 on the stiff side for dual sport, and it dropped down to 110 with 50 pounds of weight for adventure mode. If I knew I was going to be going for a while and I probably wasn't going to take a whole lot of weight off the bike, I would probably reset the race sag so it was closer to 100 millimeters, just to stiffen the back end up a little bit. Again, if you look at the settings, I ended up with the high-speed compression at 2.5 and the low-speed compression -2 from stock. I don't know. I have it written down. It's all in there. Look at the paper. That'll make more sense. That'll be actually what it is. And the bike with a load on it rode really, really well. Again, it's awkward because all the weight was up high, and I like to carry the weight down low. It'll make it ride better. And I really can't wait to get out, load this thing down, and see what it'll do now. But I guess my conclusion is that yes, the spring experiment for the adventure side of things worked really, really well. Did it work great for the dual sport side of things? Well, I'm going to have to go out and ride around some more, but from the little bit of riding that I did, it worked perfectly fine. It really did. I think the bike stock is a little undersprung. It's a little light. That 220-pound weight limit might just be there to keep you within that spring's weight limit, and as soon as you push through that, your bike starts getting soft. Again, my bike is 315 pounds, so I'm already 25 pounds fat right off the brake without doing anything to the bike. I think the 6.0 spring for adventure riding is for me, for what I'm doing and for what my load is the right one. I really liked how this thing rode. For you, depending on what you carry, if you carry more or less, you might want to play around with those numbers. Go to the Race Tech site and play around with the numbers, and you decide what you want. So throughout all this, I hope we all learned something. I hope now everybody knows how to change out their spring and can adjust their suspension, and now you know what the stock settings are. Always start from a starting position and write that shit down, okay? If you don't know where you're starting from, you don't know where you're going to end up. And if anything ever changes, you won't be able to get back there. So start from the stock settings and just go from there and write it down. And speaking of writing it down, if you guys have any questions, I don't know that I have the answers, but I will certainly try to get you answers. Comments and whatnot. If I screwed anything up, let me know, because I know y'all are going to do that anyhow. If I got anything right, let me know. Put it all down in the comments. You know, I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can, as often as I can. And I plan on doing that right up until I hit 100,000 subscribers, and then y'all are on your own after that. I'm just kidding. Anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it.